Hello, and welcome to this edition of Secure Networks, the Endace Packet Forensic Files, with your host, Michael Morris. This episode's very special guest is Erik Dove, Security Sales Engineer and IR Expert with Cisco. Erik, welcome. Thanks for joining us, and tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Hello, Michael. I live in Texas by way of Queens, New York, and the Bay Area of California. I love basketball, video games, and traveling with my wife and two kids. I studied networking for several years, and then I landed a job in telecom. I upgraded that to leveraging SMTP, load balancing, web traffic. From there, I took a job heavily leveraging Kerberos and authentication, and I did that all across America. And then I gained a position at a vulnerability company for prioritization, and that's where I landed my current job as a security sales engineer.
Great. Well, we appreciate you taking the time to join us. I know your background working with you in the security operations centers at the Cisco Lives here recently. And I thought it would be a really good topic to focus on, kind of the shift to Agentic AI and that process within the SOC as it pertains to how SOCs operate and how engineers work and things like that. And I think your expertise will be really fitting for that. So where I kind of want to start is Agentic AI first implies that systems reason and act autonomously. And I'd start with, where have you seen the biggest efficiency gains from AI-driven workflows in day-to-day SOC operations?
The biggest efficiencies I've seen are in the accuracy of the incident.
Okay.
And that's really about, like, is this something that I should really work on? And when you're able to understand that, you're able to then exponentially work faster. And that makes it so that way you can then standardize those procedures of what you're working faster at. And it makes it so that way you're able to operate better within the SOC.
Okay. Yeah, it was great. Jessica, the director of the SOC, I loved how she talked about everybody got a promotion, all the first level engineers, right? And you're a tier 3 SOC analyst, so you must be like supreme commander now at your level, with all the level 1 folks promoted because of the AI automations. So with so many telemetry sources within a SOC, right? You got everything from packet data, network detection and response data, endpoint data, obviously all the log data within the SIEM. What strategies or AI-driven techniques are most effective in reducing alert fatigue while preserving, high fidelity detections, right?
Well, alert fatigue, I think, starts at like what you deem necessary as an organization, because you have to find a baseline of what's important, and you get that through understanding what's critical, high, low. And then when you do that, you create a SLA or a service level agreement to it. So that way you know what your responders need to action on within a certain time value. Okay. And then from there, once you understand what you're working towards, then you need to understand what's your mean-time-to-triage. Mean-time-to-triage is different than like just having a response. It's like finding the why or how it happened, because then you're able to then really figure out like the core of the incident at that point. And how does it reduce alert fatigue? The AI component of it is giving you the ability to just look at the alerts that are important to the organization, and the data ingest points that are important to the organization, and that makes it so that way all the other ones that are coming through that data source are not necessarily forgotten about, but they're less important within that time period.
All right. No, that's a great point. So, obviously, Endace is proud to be a part of Cisco SOC operations and the continuous always-on packet capture that we provide. So, from your perspective, seeing it integrated with all the other Cisco security tools, from your perspective, how does adding always-on packet data fundamentally change the way a SOC operates compared to relying solely on logs and alarms from the various tools, whether it be firewalls, XDR, or within your SIEM?
When you're able to achieve the service level agreement that you have with all the fidelity that's coming in from all those detections, then you can then work on what's called the incident response cycles lessons learned. That's from
Okay.
SANS. The lessons learned part of that is at the end, and when you're doing the data investigation and the analysis, but when you're leveraging a SIM, it gives you all the logs, right?
All right.
But you don't need all the logs. Even though we're getting always on packet data capture from all the logs, I need to know which ones are important and how
Right.
do I get to that. So the SIM helps me having the governance of all the data in the right place. The firewall gives me the traditional allow and block of all the logs in the right
Right.
direction. And I think that the consumable chunks of data that we need in order to take action on, Endace helps with the action items of the XDR solution, allows me to
Right.
understand exactly what timetable I need to look at in depth.
No,
Where the yeah.
yeah, that's a great point. And we've talked a number of times about within the SOC about the timeline, right? Being able to follow the timeline of events and activity. So that's a critical point you made there. How do you see the integration of packet data enriching correlations across those different platforms? And what operational efficiencies does that unlock for an analyst?
Um, Packet data enrichment is probably the troubleshooting step that's needed for accuracy.
Hmm.
And the reason why I say that is that um, on the firewall or the network detection system or the SIM, it validates the signal with emphasis on why the signal is important. But the breakdown that you have within Wireshark and the bandwidth consumptions within Endace fundamentally question the investigation as to why you would have that alert in the first place.
Right.
And that gives you a tooling to where you can then find whether or not within the window that we see within Endace, how much bandwidth came through. If there's no bandwidth, then nothing happened, right? It was just
Right.
maybe a DNS cache or something like
Right.
that. But if you see something within the bandwidth consumption and then go into Wireshark and then see all the different within the captured packet there, you're able to then dive in and understand exactly what the communication was between A and B, or
Right.
whatever that problem might have been.
No, that's a great point and a perfect example of leveraging it. So in incident response, time is critical. How does leveraging packet data, packet visibility with agentic AI impact the mean time to detect or the mean time to respond?
I think that technology within the last couple of years is almost not even thinking about the mean time to detect because it's accurate and instant. So we're less about detecting a problem as a part of our concern and more about what is our ability to respond or triage. And then the agentic idea gives the team a specialized worker on every aspect of the solution. So I have a guy who can do the SOAR. I have a guy who can take care of the tactics and techniques. I can have a guy that will write a summary for me, right? That's all great. We're still not getting to like the resolution of the problem, but like
Right.
it's making me all more impactful as to when I find that resolution, how faster I can elevate that to an executive or give somebody else that information in order to move on to it in order to take action. Whereas these things would have taken longer if I were to try to do it on my own. So I think the 10-minute window that Endace gives us when we identify where the issue is on responding to a situation and triaging that situation, a lot easier to work through. And it's by knowing that I have all these other agentic AI workers that I'm able to work as a team as a single person, leveraging those products.
No, that's a great point. And again, being able to span back from that 10-minute window and look across other IPs, right, is was some examples I saw being used over and over again. So that's a great point. As more investigations or as more investigative and triage tasks become more automated, where do you think the human analysts still provide the most value with an agentic AI-driven SOC?
I think the human element is definitely here to stay.
I hope
And
so.
I mean, it has to be, I think, at least on things that happen with these type of alerts, because there's humans in the interaction that create the problem. So you got to think like a human. You have to hopefully be a human in order to understand how they did that. And for a machine to figure that out is probably going to be hopefully years from now. And I think that the agentic AI SOC just makes the alerting and response quicker, and it's accurate to its true positive findings, which is what we're looking for. We want to make sure that when I am thinking like a human, then I'm doing it on work that is useful, or that is something that actually happened and not a false positive.
Right. No, that's a great example, and I remember working that one specific alarm with Barry that we ran through the AI engine specifically, and it just validated it was not. It was basically a false positive. It was the alarm was real, but there was no malicious activity within it because we could run it through and we could analyze the traffic quicker. So I think you're spot on there. So how have your SOC playbooks or your workflows evolved with the introduction of AI agents, and complemented with packet data? What best practices would you recommend for teams looking to mature or elevate their SOC to this type of model?
This model that leverages the playbooks is great, but if I was talking at a new team, I would really emphasize that they look at a service level agreement on all the alert types that come through those systems, because you want to understand what's the fatigue of you as a business or as a person or as a staff, and whether or not you can get within those timeframes in order to get and solve those issues.
Okay.
Some companies even provide like partners that go out of those time values that they're not able to work on those type of issues as an added on service. But you want to make sure that you can hopefully allow for the data to be responded to without human involvement. And that's where you automate that task once you have the service level agreement in place. And then you're able to then transition to a model where you have better accuracy, leveraging the agentic AI. And then from there, you can then walk or manually respond to the incident. Once you've manually responded to the incident, then you know the outcome, you know it works, you understand what's the effect of an action, and then you can automate that response. So then we call that like running with it. So you're running the command, right? You're running whatever the automation is. You're using that workflow to move forward. And then that repetition makes it so that way the triage is seeing less of the signal of something new, because that's been automated, and then the things that bubble up are either more involved or have a deeper connection to a newer alert that they haven't seen before. And Endace's full packet capture helps out with that finer detail whenever we need to figure out what's going on with the incident itself.
No, that's a great example. So I always like in these interviews to ask my guests to kind of put on their prognosticator hat and look ahead, look into the future about what does a fully optimized agentic AI SOC look like to you, and what key steps should organizations be thinking about or take to move forward to that level of operational efficiency?
That's a good question. When I'm working in the SOC, I think of the TV show Law and Order.
Oh, okay. And I love Law and Order.
Okay. So I think about the future and the agentic AI SOC. The tools are better and the problems are going to be harder, but fundamentally the fingerprints will not change, right? Yeah. So we have fingerprints, we have digital fingerprints, and I think Endace records all of those in each of their deployments. So you're able to then see all the fingerprints. You're able to detect exactly what's going on, and it makes it easier to accomplish that problem.
That's a great analogy. I'm gonna have to start using that one. The Law and Order comparison there. So, well, Erik, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day. I know you've got a lot going on. So I thank you for sharing your insights on how to better improve a security operations agentic AI workflow. We'd ask our listeners to tune in next time for another episode of Endace Packet Forensic Files. And for more information about Endace's network packet capture platform and our integrations with the portfolio of Cisco security solutions, please go to endace.com. Erik, thanks again for taking the time with us. Really appreciate it. And thanks for joining.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it.